Constructivism is an educational philosophy that emphasizes developmental personal meaning through hands-on activity-based teaching and learning skills. Students are active learners who should be given opportunities to construct their own frames of thought. Teaching techniques should be included a variety of different learning activities during which students are free to infer and discover their own answers to input into questions. Teachers need to spend more time creating hands-on learning situations rather than lecturing students about the topic at hand. Constructive educators consider true learning to be an active framing of personal meaning rather than framing someone else's meaning or thoughts. Constructivist theorists encourage the development of critical thinking and understanding of the big ideas rather than mastering factual information. Problem-based learning centers student activities on tackling authentic contemporary problems. Also, the approach in that it challenges educators to focus curriculum on the students' interests, what they like and they want to learn about, and what needs to be learned, and current societal problems and concerns rather than on disciplinary content coverage. In problem-based learning, students are presented with the hook. The hook might be a letter from a civic group, a request from the environmental agency, or any other motivating beginning. The hook describes a contemporary dilemma and requests students to take on some real-life role to solve the problem. The problem-based learning usually requires the students to spend time finding the core problem, clarifying the problem, and then assessing what is and what is not known about the problem, gathering needed data to complement their answer to the problem, and finally presenting a position statement and or suggestion of a solution. In problem-based learning, the teacher's role is to act as a guide or a coach and gives great latitude to the students' interests so they can learn the content and the skills to solve the problem. Educators should invite students to experience the world's richness and empower them to ask their own questions about the world and seek their own answers about the world. Teachers of constructivism should propose situations that encourage students to think. Rather than leading students toward a particular answer, let them solve their problems and develop their own ideas and chart their own particular pathway. What does an educational philosophy look like? First, you need to answer some questions. What is it that you believe are the most important outcomes for the learners? Another way of asking the question is, what knowledge and skills are the most worth? Classroom organization and the physical setting. It's useful to begin thinking about the topic of classroom organization, which encompasses and affects all aspects of teaching and learning. Teachers should organize their classrooms in ways that is conducive to teaching and learning. Classroom organization isn't just refusing to allow any behavior that is ungoverned or unplanned. It encompasses the content, methods, and values that infuse the classroom environment. The arrangement of the classroom furniture and the use of the classroom materials may tell you if a teacher perceives the learners as passive or active learners. In a teacher-centered educational philosophy would support classroom arranged in rows. On the other hand, student-centered educational philosophies tend to support more open classrooms with small circles for special groupings in readings, math, and other subjects. This requires the student to be active in the learning process. Teaching style and lesson planning. If the learners are considered passive, teacher-centered, the lesson plans might emphasize students' absorption of factual content of the subject matter. If students will be active, this would tend to emphasize thinking process and skills and view factual content of the subject matter as important but variable. Students are allowed to help pick the content to learn. No matter what, active or passive, all teachers need to plan sound lessons. Every lesson should be built around the basic set of general objectives that correspond to the overall goals, either with the school district or the state and national standards. Lessons are often tied to some form of unit. The unit should be planned in detail and to include suggestions for teaching the lesson, the types of materials to be used, and specific plans for evaluations of the lessons and units. Student assessment and evaluation. Teacher-centered and student-centered teachers use a variety of techniques including examinations, term papers, project reports, group discussions, and performance assessments. If the subject matter is treated as a bundle of information, teacher-made tests will tend to seek facts and concepts as the right answer. On the other hand, subject matter is treated as the big idea that are applicable to problem solving, and if students are expected to engage in the process and developing skills to arrive at certain right answers, teacher-made tests will tend to allow for divergent thinking then. Teachers who support students in their classrooms look for divergence in learning and tend to place less emphasis on the group norms. Teachers who favor teacher-centered authority for the classroom with a stress on convergence in learning are more apt to favor student evaluation strategies that are based on the group norms. Motivation. Motivation. It means emotion, desire, or impulse to act on as an excitement to the action. Motivation is internal because it relates to emotions, desires, and other internal drives. And it implies that there is an accompanying external focus on action or behavior. When organizing learning environment, it needs to relate to the students and their desires, the internal, and permit active participants in the learning process, the external. It is important that students are motivated. We want students to be motivated to complete homework, be responsible, be lifelong learners, be on time, have fun in class, care about others, and become independent learners. In teacher-centered or classroom control, motivation tends to come in the form of rules and regulations. Students are given clear directions concerning their responsibilities and expectations. In learner-centered setting, the responsibility of learning is primarily borne by the students. The teacher attempts to produce a climate of warmth and mutual respect. Students are encouraged to achieve specific outcomes, but ultimately they are free to select those that most interest them. Source of power to motivation response. Coercion is to obey, rewards to get, legitimacy to respect, charisma to cooperate, knowledge to understand. Classroom management and discipline. Parents and teachers alike list discipline as the top issue in schools. The inability to manage students effectively, the effect disrupting behavior has on learning. Carla and Charles have three schools of thought. Non-interventionists hold the views that teachers should not impose their own rules. Students are inherently capable of solving their own problems. Interactionists suggest that students must learn that the solution to misbehavior is reciprocal relationship between student and teacher. Interventionists believe that teachers must set classroom standards for conduct and give little attention to input from the students. Overall, the goal should be to keep disruptive behaviors to a minimum. Choice theory. As a way to determine classroom discipline practices. A person's total behavior is composed of feelings, psychological actions, and thoughts. People that believe in choice theory contend that we choose most of our behaviors in an effort to gain control of ourselves and other people. All of our choices and behaviors are based on urgency for survival, power, love, belonging, freedom, and fun. In choice theory, people believe that if there's an imbalance of any of these 6 basic needs, people tend to act out. Choice theory requires teachers to consider many of the factors that can account for problem behaviors rather than responding immediately to the situation. Teachers are encouraged to seek assistance from counselors, social workers, and parents to fully understand what is causing the person's problem. Teachers need to evaluate the inappropriate behavior, then determine the need the student thinks is being met by the behavior, and think of appropriate replacement for the behavior. We need to help the student identify the inappropriate behavior and the natural consequences of the behavior by asking questions like, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? What is the rule? Are you making the best choice? Then allow students to design a plan for their own behavior. Follow up with questions like, what is your plan? What choices do you need to make? What are you going to do to bring your plan into action? Assertive discipline is a teacher-in-charge, structured classroom management approach designed to encourage students to choose a responsible behavior. And this discipline approach is based on consistency, follow-through, and positive relationship building. Teachers have the right to teach, and the pupils have the right to learn. Teachers have the right to determine what is best for the student and to expect compliance. No pupil should prevent the teacher from teaching or keeping another student from learning. Teachers need to develop a classroom discipline plan, and the plan must clarify behaviors that are expected of students and clarify what students can expect from the teacher in return. The aim of the plan is to have a fair and consistent way to establish a safe, orderly, positive classroom in which teachers can teach and pupils can learn. Plans should consist of rules the students must follow, positive recognition that students will receive for following the rules, and consequences that the students will receive for not following the rules. If students are to succeed in the classroom, they need to know without a doubt what is expected of them to succeed. Conflict resolutions focus on the process of teaching students how to recognize problems and then solve them constructively. Students are taught to be conflict managers and are trained to deal with the differences on the playground, in the halls, or in the classrooms. Students need to learn specific skills that help them solve problems, like to guide a discussion about a problem between two people that are fighting. Students solve their own problems with minimal assistance from adults when they are taught these skills. Advocates of conflict resolution contend that permitting students to share in their own structure and even the enforcement of discipline policies help learners to contribute to the school and society as a whole. In peer mediation programs, students receive training in empathy development, social skills, and bias awareness. General rules for discipline guidelines. Students and teachers need to learn the importance of considerate behavior and communications. Students need to be treated with respect. Students who are treated with respect develop stronger self-esteem. Teachers need to apply critical thinking skills when creating disciplinary rules and analyzing the needed disciplinary action. Teachers need to examine how their actions of social and instructional nature may have helped trigger the misbehavior. Classroom climate is not a simple set of rules or way of acting. It's a holistic concept, one that involves a set of underlying relationships and underlying tone, sense, or being and feeling. Classroom climates consider favorable conditions for learning, parent interest in and knowledge of the school, positive relationships between principals and teachers and students. Successful learning climates was in one, the students have time to wonder and find a direction that interests them. 2, topics have an intriguing quality, something common seen in a new way. 3, teachers permit, even encourage different forms of expression and respect students' views. 4, teachers are passionate about their work. And 5, students create original or personal products. Students do something, they participate in activities that matter. And 7, students sense that the results of their work are not predetermined. Voice is the term brought to education. It's a concept of voice that refers to the multifaceted and interlocking set of meanings through which students and teachers actively engage in dialogue with one another. A good classroom climate consists of space between and among people. Space gives the opportunity for students to explore, take risks, make mistakes, take corrective action in the authentic space for learning. Space helps develop a community of inquiry for students. Charles said, "Space has come to mean an environment in which students listen to one another with respect, build on other ideas, challenge one another to supply reasons for their opinions, assist one another in drawing inferences, and seek to identify one another's assumption. Teachers ask questions and students answer them without either party feeling the least embarrassment about the process."